The Croods are a unique family of cavemen who thrive in a challenging environment by following a strict set of guidelines. However, their peaceful existence is shattered when their dwelling is devastated by an upcoming catastrophic event called the End. With no shelter or protection, they must venture into the unknown wilderness to seek out a new place to call home. Today, we'll recap the story of the 2013 movie The Croods. In the ancient world, there lived a family of Neanderthals, known as the Croods. They spent most of their days hiding in a cave to protect themselves from predators, since their neighbors were wiped out by diseases and various kinds of beasts. The Croods were isolated and had to fend for themselves completely. After being stuck in the cave for 3 days, Grug, the father, decided to leave early in the morning to get some food to make their environment safer. While chasing away from sleeping dogs, Grug's eldest daughter, Eb, came out of the cave, complaining about being trapped for so long. Grug ignored her and started fighting with her for leaving before he said it was safe. Then, Sandy, the youngest daughter, also comes out of the cave and started fighting with a giant mosquito, which forced her mother, Uga, to come out and help her. Uga called her mother out, and together, the Croods formed a formation and went out to hunt for their breakfast. After searching for a few miles, they found the nest of a prehistoric bird and decided to take its egg while the bird was busy chasing some dogs. Grug told Thunk to get the egg, but when he tried to run, the bird hit him with her thorn. The bird picked up her egg and ran back to the nest with it. But at that moment, Uga let go of Sandy, and together, they tried to get the object out of the animal's mouth. Amidst all the chaos, 2 lemurs interfere and knock down a bird to steal an egg from Uga's hands. Gran arrives on the scene and uses her staff to knock down the lemurs. However, more of the same species join in to attack Gran and retrieve the egg. Eb corners the lemurs and steals the egg, but faces a challenge from some bats, who attempt to steal the food from her. In the end, she throws the egg to her father, Grug, who runs towards the cave, but encounters a giant predator that begins to chase them. With his entire family at risk, Grug feeds as fast as he can and sets everyone on a mammoth. The mammoth then smashes the predator against the wall and continues running, but hits its head, throwing all the Croods up into the air. After Grug catches the egg, they can finally eat, but with so many mouths to feed, it certainly wouldn't be enough. When Grug realizes it's getting dark, he tells everyone to go back to the cave, but Eb disobeys and climbs the rocks to watch the sunset. Grug goes after her, and while Eb is in the tree looking at the horizon, a predatory creature hears Grug's shouts and attacks him. Grug throws a rock that hits the creature right in the face, giving Eb enough time to climb down, and they all enter the lair. Upon returning home, Grug scolds his daughter for putting herself in danger. However, to prevent any argument, Uga interrupts and asks Grug to tell a story instead. Grug, known for his wild tales, seizes the opportunity to caution against curiosity with a catastrophic story. The family is left thoroughly frightened. After the story, everyone goes to bed and falls asleep peacefully. But in the middle of the night, Eb wakes up to strange sounds and discovers a light from a torch outside that she has never seen before. Confused and curious, Eb spends a lot of time trying to capture it, eventually realizing that it's coming from the cave. Eb removes the protective rock to investigate the source of the light. She sees the shadow of a horned creature and decides to throw a stone, but the shadow disappears. Curious, Eb climbs the mountain and finally finds the torch that was giving off the light, as she observes the torch and tries to touch the flame. The stranger wearing a boring mask notices Eb's presence and stands up to watch her. However, Eb spots the stalker and uses a judo attack to take him down. With the stranger on the ground, Eb grabs a super heavy rock and threatens to throw it at him. But she gives up when the stranger removes his mask and reveals himself to be a human named Guy. Eb drops the rock, which lands on Guy's foot and causes him to scream in pain. Eb covers Guy's mouth. Since Eb has never seen someone like Guy before, she begins to analyze and smell him. She becomes frightened when she discovers that Guy has a pet sloth that he keeps holding. Meanwhile, Grug wakes up with moonlight on his face and realizes that not only is the cave entrance unprotected, but Eb is also missing. To save his daughter, Grug overcomes his fear of the dark and leaves the cave in the middle of the night to search for her. As Grug searches for his daughter, Eb and Guy are on top of a mountain, disputing over the torch. However, Eb discovers that, like her, Guy also hates the dark. She decides to leave him with the fire. Eb attempts to convince him to create one for her, but Guy claims that they must depart as soon as possible. According to Guy, from where he comes, the earth shakes and cracks, causing everyone and everything to fall into a fissure with a sea of lava. Guy proposes, that they should go to higher ground and invites Eb to come with him. However, Eb refuses because she cannot leave her family behind. After Eb rejects his invitation, Guy hands her a shell so that she can communicate with him from a distance and continues on his journey. While Eb is alone in the darkness, her father discovers her and grounds her for going out by herself. Furious, she returns home to find her whole family anxious and attempting to calm them down. Eb tells them what happened, including Guy, and takes the shell to call him, but the rest of the family is afraid of the noise and throws the object on the ground. At that moment, the ground shakes, and a deafening rumble erupts from underground. The ground cracks open wider and wider, and Grug attempts to protect his family by ordering them to run back to the cave. However, he has to throw a rock to stop them when he realizes that a massive boulder is about to collapse on top of them. As the rock falls, a cloud of dust rises, covering the whole family. After all the chaos, they rise and discover that the cave they have inhabited for generations is entirely destroyed. Eb noticed a new biome on the horizon. Excited to explore it, she attempted to jump in, but Grug held her back, warning that it could be dangerous. Suddenly, the same predator from before reappeared, trapping them against a cliff. The family was forced to jump into the abyss, landing in the middle of a forest with no way back. They continued on, encountering several magnificent creatures they had never before seen. After walking all day, they stumbled upon a group of primates, and Grug tried to scare them off. However, the monkeys were not intimidated and attacked him. As they ran away, Grug realized that a giant saber-toothed tiger was now behind them. Grug attempted to defend his family by throwing a rock, but the tiger easily defended itself. With nowhere to run, the Croods climbed onto a log, which turned out to be a huge creature that led them to a plain. The tiger continued to chase them until a mysterious shadow appeared, causing it to flee. The family watched in confusion as a cloud of birds approached and devoured a whale carcass in a matter of seconds. Eb rushes to a bull's skull to blow the horn and call for Guy's assistance upon hearing the approaching flock of bloodthirsty birds. Guy arrives in time and creates sparks through friction to light a torch, which he uses to repel the attacking birds. After the birds depart, the Croods become apprehensive of Guy and attempt to intimidate him. However, Eb introduces Guy as a friend and informs the Croods that they are her family. They try to interact with the torch, leading to a mishap where Funk's suit catches fire due to grease. In his panic, Funk runs towards the tall, dry grass, causing a widespread fire that leads to the ignition of a giant corn cob that propels everyone into the sky. Although they eventually crash and fall off the corn, it explodes in the sky, resulting in a spectacular fireworks display and popcorn rain. After spending the night buried under a mountain of popcorn, Guy finally frees himself and decides to continue his plan to head towards the mountain. However, Eb chases after him and refuses to let him go, turning him into a prisoner. When Grug sees this, he asks Eb to release Guy, but she and Gran argue that both he and his fire can be useful in the search for a new cave. Convinced by their reasoning, Grug places Guy inside a hollow log and starts carrying him in a different direction. However, Guy suggests that they head towards the mountain. Although the other members of the crew are convinced by Guy's idea, Grug remains indifferent and continues walking. But when he sees the ground breaking up in front of him, he changes his mind and decides to head for the mountain. Together, Guy and the Croods spend the whole day hiking until they come across another bird. Grug decides that they should try to get the bird's egg like they did the day before. However, since Eb is grounded and the others are tired, he and Thunk go alone this time. As Thunk runs with the egg, Grug chases the bird, trying to distract it. The animal easily retrieves its egg, and luckily crushes a scorpion with a wrestling move. The hungry Croods eat the scorpion, but Gran is not satisfied since it is too small. She tries to eat Funk, but the Croods separate the two. Belt takes advantage of the distraction to try to roll Guy's trunk away, but Eb realizes the plan and prevents his escape. Guy tells Eb he's hungry and promises to teach her a new hunting technique if she releases him. Eb believes him. They set up a bird of leaves to lure the bird, but the plan backfires and the bird gets angry. The bird grabs the leaves and throws them away, causing Guy to fall back onto the trunk alone. Eb starts running, and the bird chases her. She gets the idea to run towards the trap, causing the bird to get caught. With the bird immobilized, Guy builds a fire and they roast the colossal bird, having the first decent meals of their lives. Grug feels inferior after seeing his family eating well for the first time. Uga tries to distract him by asking him to tell a story. Still upset, Grug meets with his family and tells them the story of a disobedient tigress who came out of the cave at night, a clear reference to Ep. Despite feeling envious that his family enjoyed Guy's story, Grug tells everyone to go to sleep so that he can continue searching for the cave the next day. As they sleep, the continents continue to separate, and a massive crater opens up next to them. Guy almost falls into the abyss, prompting the Croods to quickly continue their journey towards the mountain. However, as they pass through an area that was previously underwater, Ep accidentally knocks Guy onto some sharp, rocky coral. Grug tries to rescue him, but he ends up piercing his feet on the coral since he is barefoot. Guy, who is wearing shoes, runs freely on the rocks, but he eventually hears the family crying in pain as they try to walk on the sharp ground, so he decides to go back and help them. Guy insists that Grug throws away the log and accepts him as a member of the family. After they accept Guy, he uses the surrounding materials to make shoes for everyone so that they can continue their journey. With the boys' help, the Croods overcome obstacles on their way to the mountain. The Croods finally arrive at the mountain after a long walk. However, they need to pass through a confusing labyrinth called the Iraqi Labyrinth to reach it. Guy, the guide, suggests that they should split up to reach their destination faster and gives them a signaling shell to meet up later. Grug, however, disagrees with this idea and wants to stay with his family. Suddenly, an earthquake hits, causing them to fall into different parts of the maze. Each family member takes a different path, encountering various challenges along the way. Meanwhile, Grug remains lost in the rocks and keeps blowing his shell in hopes of being found. As they set up camp in a tree, Yuga decides to rescue Grug from the maze. However, upon their return, Grug prefers to stay alone on the forest floor instead of staying in something that Guy has built. Guy then invites the Croods to see something new and takes them to the top of the tree. There, he puts out the torch and reveals the incredible beauty of the night sky. Grug becomes jealous of Guy's ability to create interesting things and spends the night thinking about how to prove himself. At dawn, they search for Grug until they find him acting completely crazy and trying to imitate Guy. Once they convince Grug to abandon his stubbornness, the Croods resumed their journey towards the mountain, while the ground continued to crumble behind them. Grug tried to lead them into a cave, but Eb disagreed and declared that they all had decided to move forward with Guy. Furious and feeling cheated, Grug became enraged and chased after Guy. However, after a while, Guy got trapped in a pool of tar and Grug knocked him into the abyss. Both of them got stuck in the tar and gradually fell down the cliff until they landed in an even bigger pool of resin. While Grug struggled to free himself, Guy revealed that his entire family had been wiped out after being stuck in tar for days. Grug regretted everything he had done and apologized for his behavior. Suddenly, they heard a saber-toothed tiger approaching. Guy came up with an idea to build a puppet of a saber-toothed tiger using plants to attract the feline, but it failed. Grug then took control of the puppet and made it look like a frightened prey, luring the tiger towards them. The tiger fell for the trick and grabbed the puppet, but then realized it had been deceived and attacked them fiercely. The saber-toothed tiger got its tail stuck in the tar and was thrown far away by the elastic force of the resin. The Croods arrived, relieved to see that they were safe, but they had no time to celebrate. As the earthquake strikes again, shaking the ground beneath them, Grug realizes his mistake and urges his family to leave. He asks Guy to lead them to tomorrow. After crossing the mountain, they reach a plain covered in clouds. However, another earthquake strikes and the ground breaks in front of them, preventing further progress. Uga suggests returning to their cave as it is dangerous to stay. However, Grug is determined to continue their journey to tomorrow. He comes up with the idea of using his strength to throw them to the other side, starting with Guy. Grug proceeds to throw the rest of the family to tomorrow, leaving only Eb behind. Eb refuses to go. At that moment, the ground trembles once again. Grug quickly lifts Eb into his arms and throws her to safety on the other side. Once everyone is out of harm's way, the ground collapses again, prompting Grug to seek shelter in a nearby cave to avoid being crushed by falling rocks. In the darkness of the cave, Grug takes some stones and attempts to create fire through friction. To his delight, he successfully lights a torch for the very first time. Grug takes some iron oxide and creates a drawing of his entire family reunited, including Guy. Just as he completes the drawing, another earthquake strikes, knocking him to the ground and extinguishing his torch. After rekindling the fire, Grug discovers that a saber-toothed tiger is right behind him. In a desperate attempt to scare the animal away, Grug uses his torch, but the tiger manages to extinguish it with a single breath. As a massive boulder breaks, causing a loud crash, the frightened tiger becomes so scared that he relights the torch himself. Terrified, the saber-tooth snuggles up to Grug and falls asleep on his lap. Despite the comforting presence of the tiger, Grug's despair grows as he hears the sound of a shell coming from the other side, fearing that his family is in danger. After some time pondering, Grug comes up with an idea to cross over. He teams up with a saber-tooth and obtains a portion of a whale skeleton, which he coats with tar. He then climbs up to the mountaintop and attracts the attention of the birds, luring them to the skeleton, where they become trapped. Grug guides the birds towards tomorrow, but as they approach the division between the continents, they are struck by a massive explosion. They see Grug on the horizon, seemingly out of control. After a gentle landing, Grug is reunited with his family, now including Guy, various pets that Grug saved, and they arrive at the long dreamed of tomorrow. And that's a wrap on our recap of the Croods. From its heartwarming family moments to its epic adventures, this movie is a must-see for all ages. But speaking of family-friendly movies, we can't forget about Despicable Me, another animated classic that has captured the hearts of audiences around the world. Get ready to follow the misadventures of Gru, a supervillain who's trying to steal the moon, and his adorable minions who are always getting into trouble. Trust us, you won't want to miss out on the hilarious antics that ensue in this beloved movie. So click this video and I'll see you there.